This is TRAXXfm, and it's time for Face to Face with your host, speaking to today's panelists. Face to Face, exclusively on TRAXXfm.
Welcome to today's edition of Face to Face, time stamped 11:17 a.m. dated January 27, 2022. Ya Kong Yu this hour, joined by my special guest in celebrating Keluarga Malaysia, delving deeper into what that means and how we can be better members lah. Actually, the Ali Keluarga or Keluarga Malaysia itself. Yeah. If you have just joined us, we're available via the radio waves. You're tuning in possibly through that. But if you like a visual cue into today's interview, join us as we have gone live on our Facebook timeline. We are at TRAXXfm Official. Join us there. If you like to drop a comment, you have a suggestion, maybe you have a question for Trustee Thye, well, that's the best way to hit us up in getting interactive, yeah? Join us at TRAXXfm Official. Meanwhile, welcoming via the phone lines and via the Facebook Live platform, both ways lah. My guest today, I always have the honor and privilege to be touching base with Trustee Thye, who is a social activist as well as a member of the National Unity Advisory Panel, right? And also a champion of the Alliance for Safe Community, yeah? Trustee, good morning.
Yeah, morning, Kong Yu, yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us and taking time out to share your thoughts, views, and opinions. We appreciate it, yeah?
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Now, the philosophy that we've been, inculcating more of and we've been hearing about, and we've heard it from different sectors, from the unity perspective, as well as overall in terms of how we should be shaping our lives as Malaysians overall. Keluarga Malaysia. So let's talk about that. How do you define it in your terms, and what does that mean to you, Trustee?
Yeah, to me, Malaysian family or Keluarga Malaysia, in the context of nation building, means a nation of all Malaysians, upholding family values, where every member of the family must be loved, respected, and given opportunities to develop their full potential. That means all citizens of this country should be regarded as one big Malaysian family, having equal rights, equal opportunities, equal responsibilities, and equal duties to ensure the success, the peace, the prosperity, and the unity of the nation. Now, it is my hope that when the government has spoken a lot about the Malaysian family, the government will also ensure that it will do whatever it takes to ensure that the family values are practiced in all aspects of our national life. In a family, as I said, we do not discriminate against any member. Well, we are supposed to be all brothers and sisters, and all deserve fair treatment and opportunities. And in a family, there should not be any favorites. Now, I believe that Malaysian citizens, irrespective of race, religion, or creed, are all part of this Keluarga Malaysia or the Malaysian family. And similarly, Malaysia as a nation, it belongs equally to all its citizens. No citizen shall be branded as a pendatang or orang asing or an immigrant or a foreigner. We must give special consideration to Malaysians who are disadvantaged or deprived, regardless of race, religion, creed, gender, or location. So that way, in my view, we can create a truly Keluarga Malaysia or a Malaysian family.
Now, Trustee, because you've had a very long and illustrious career, across the many decades from politician to social activist now. The whole works. Yeah, so you've seen it all. And I want to ask you, throughout your whole life as well, this Keluarga Malaysia, Malaysian family concept really isn't a new one, isn't it?
Yes. Well, on reflection, let me say here that I've given the best years of my life, to the service of the nation. I remember I started off at the age of 24, no? At the age of 24 as elected representative of the people, representing Bukit Nanas. If people in Kuala Lumpur would know, Bukit Nanas, one of the tourist spots before. I represented the constituency, and at that time, of course, KL was still part of this Selangor, and that was well before the formation of the federal territory way back in 1974. So as I said, I started off at the age of 24, and I had a long political career. I retired from politics in 1990. And after that, I still wanted to continue my service, to the country in other ways. So one of the first things I did was I got myself associated with the Pemadam. Pemadam is the anti-drug abuse, the association, championing the cause of, educating the people, especially the youths, and not to be involved in drugs and so on, you see. And after that, as I said, I was also involved in a number of other NGOs. And in between that, I was also partly involved with the private sector. I was appointed as an independent, board of this director, of a few companies and so on. Yeah. And now, of course, as I said, I've retired from all those positions, but I'm still very actively involved with my NGO, the Alliance for a Safe Community.
For a safe community. Exactly. Yeah. So
you see, when I look back,
experiences.
When I look back, over the years, like I said, I was proud to say that what I was doing all these years was trying to get the people together, to bring people together, diverse races, diverse to the country, because I believe that Malaysia is a very unique country in the sense that we are a country of diverse races, diverse religions, diverse culture. And that's the reason why we have been talking so much of unity in diversity. And I think this is one of the basic elements I would certainly like to preach among Malaysians, And I believe that if all Malaysians, can really, put their minds together, put their soul together, and are prepared to do whatever they can do, I'm sure they can contribute immensely to the development of our nation, and they can be part of a very big Malaysian family upholding the core values, which are so essential for nation building.
Now, essentially that's it, isn't it? The diversity of Malaysians as a whole. We've heard so much about, the different areas, the different aspects of life, whether it is the locality, it is our ethnic origins, whatever it is, right? Today's not really a forum where we need to go into that. That really is where we are unique as Keluarga Malaysia, isn't it? It is our diversity.
Yeah. So I think, in fact, this is Kong Yu. Let me just, I think, clear this particular part. When you ask me, is the philosophy of Keluarga Malaysia or Malaysian family a new one? So really, on looking back, as I said, it is really not a new one. All along, from the very day, when we secured independence, we became an independent, sovereign to the nation. We have always emphasized that it is the contribution of the people that will be able to build the country, to make the country great today. And when we talk about the people, obviously we have to talk about the family, because the people, they represent families, they come from families and so on. And so I would say that from the very day when the country was born, I think we had this in mind. We want to create, a a united, a harmonious nation, where the people of all diverse the races, can come together as a Malaysian, this family, contributing to the greater good of the country. You see, so as I said, this is something I really like to talk about. But of course, what is important is this: you see, we must not make this just a mere slogan. Because in the past, we have all kinds of these slogans. For example, like be a slogan of Vision 2020. You remember that, Kong Yu? And we have one Malaysia. And maybe just a couple of others. As I said, well, there is nothing wrong in having, just a concept. This is what we want to do. But we must not, end up, in just making it just a mere slogan without giving meaning to it, without giving meaning to it, and without, ensuring, that it is something that can be put into practice in our daily lives. It's very important. You see, for example, when I talk about the Rukun Negara and so on. It is something which are all so close to our hearts.
That's right.
That is the national philosophy. Of our nation. For example, there are 5 these important, the principles, the belief in God, loyalty to the king and country, upholding the constitution, the rule of law, good social behavior, and morality. These are all the 5 basic principles. But what is important is I would not like, for example, that people can rattle off, they can memorize all this, especially the students in schools. They memorize all this, and in front of the crowd, they can easily, mention all this. But are they really putting that into practice? This is important. So to me, as I said, Malaysian family must not be just a mere slogan. It is something that we must cherish. It is something we must give meaning to it. It is something that will be able to motivate us, to inspire us, to get together to build a nation that we can all be proud of.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And of course, we're going to be talking further on how, on what steps, that each of us as Malaysians can take to be in line more with this philosophy from the inside out. Okay, so we're going to do that. I'm going to put you on a short breaker, Tan Sri. So hold on the line, stay on the line, and when we come back, the second half of today's Face to Face, right here on Trax Momentum. We'll be right back.
Face to Face will be back right after this. Stay tuned to know more about today's topic exclusively on TRAXXfm.
Enjoy the best durians in Sarawak by the Ranchan or Simuja waterfalls with music from TRAXXfm on 95.6 Serian, Sarawak.
You're tuned in to Face as I'm talking about celebrating Keluarga Malaysia with my guest today, Tan Sri Lee Lam Thye, who is with the Alliance for a Safer Community as well as a member of the National Unity Advisory Panel under the purview of the Ministry of National Unity. Of course, part and parcel, of course, inculcation of the idea of Keluarga Malaysia. Thank you so much, Tan Sri, for being with us. Importantly, we've been talking about how we can each play a part, a better part to be a member of a family, right? Without any, grievances. Of course, grievances is going to be part of any family functioning. It is going into the root cause of that and looking into how that is resolved. That is very important, right? So how do we do that? How do we ensure that each and every one of us as a Malaysian understands and can work towards being a better part of the family?
Yeah, I think this is a very critical issue because, as I said, I think everybody knows about the Keluarga Malaysia, and I think everybody wants to have a Keluarga in Malaysia. But of course, it must be seen, of course, within the context of nation building. This is something which I'm very interested in. Now, I think one of the important things I like to reiterate here is the fact that we must always do whatever we can, to give meaning to this Malaysian family, and at the same time we want also to ensure that being part of the Malaysian family, we will be given the due respect. We'll be given the due respect, the due recognition that in spite of our diversity, in spite of our differences, we can still, come together, for the common good of the country to build a united nation. Now, what I would like to see, for example, is that the government, I think, should initiate, more activities and programs that can involve all the different the races. This is very important. I think whatever it does, it must be seen to be a multiracial task. It must be seen to be a multiracial responsibility that we all have, to contribute, to the development of our nation. Now, what is important here is that if we want to see this Malaysian family take root and be able to be meaningful, I think first and foremost, I think we must not do or for example say anything that is contrary to the very principle of multiracialism. Now, what I mean is that in this country, I think there is no place for extremism of any form. There is no place. Whether it is in terms of, this ethnicity, or in terms of religion, or in terms of this culture, because as I said, we are what we are. The fact is that we are a country of diverse these races, and this diversity should not be regarded as a weakness. On the contrary, it must be regarded as our strength, because we all know that by coming this together, we will be able, to show, to everyone, we will be able to show the whole world that although we are a country of so many races, so many religions, and so many cultures, but we are able to stand together, to stand united as a nation. So I think in order to do this, as I said, we have to go back to the very basic, fundamental of the Rukun Negara. Because I always believe that Rukun Negara is actually the basis of our nation building. Because if we were to follow all the five the principles which I've outlined, earlier, I'm sure we will be able to avoid many of the problems that we have been going through all these years. Especially problems, I think, with regard to extremism, problems, with regard to this discrimination, of one form, I think, or another, or for example, problems that these are related, to race, to religion, and so on. Now, all this can be avoided if we were to stand firm and we were to put into practice all the the principles of the Rukun Negara.
Right. So going back down to the principles which were crafted for that very, very reason. Yeah. What do you think? On a practical day-to-day basis, maybe in terms of inculcation of values and just how we actually look at life philosophy even, right? The way that we teach our youngsters and nurture our children, for those who are parents, how do we bring this idea more into fruition, into the holistic idea of a Keluarga Malaysia?
Yeah. I think in every aspect of our life, for example, you can talk about so many areas. You can talk about education. You can talk about the workplace. You can talk about the home. And you can talk about the social sphere. When we go out, we interact with one another. We of course we mix very well. But of course now with COVID and so on, of course, it will not be the same as as before to be able to have a greater social interaction, you see. But this, nevertheless, as I said, we can still do it, but perhaps on a limited scale, with full compliance of the SOPs and so on, in terms of our safety and health. So I think all these activities, I think need to be infused. I think to be inculcated. I think among the young, and especially in the schools. I think it is very, very important. The schools, for example, all the students must be told, you see, that you must disregard, the one standing next to you, not by race, but as a friend, as a schoolmate, don't look upon, the one who is standing next to me, is of a different race, because as I said, when we talk about race, to me, as I said, it doesn't make sense. And I always say, when I talk about race, I can only refer to one thing, that is the human race that I know of. I only know of one thing, race. It is the human race, and I think other than that, I think it really this doesn't mean much or anything to me. So even the schools, as I said, we must start from the schools. We talk about the Malaysian the family. We talk about family, the values. We talk about the core values. We talk about how do we build responsible citizens for the future. How do we go about ensuring that they will be the future responsible citizens of the country, where they can think and they can act not in terms of their own this racial the perspective, but in terms of the overall the Malaysian this perspective, regarding themselves as Malaysians first and as Malaysian last. I think this is very important, and so these are the things that we can all do all these activities and these programs by talking about the Malaysian family, and the Malaysian family here, it means a family of all races, is a family of with this diversity. So this is actually what is important. So I really would like to see, as I said, that all this must be taken upon by everyone, and to make sure that in our daily life we are really putting this into a practice. So this is what I've been advocating.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else that you can share with us regarding this? And overall, also, do you feel that, within this idea, this concept of Keluarga Malaysia, is there anything beyond that we need to look at? Yeah, the
thing is talking about this Keluarga this Malaysia also, for example, I always like to bring in the subject of this unity, and I think this has been very successfully proven, I think very recently when we had, the COVID-19 pandemic, when we had the massive floods, that hit, so many parts of the country, and you can see how, the Malaysians are responding. Even, for example, I have, for example, cases where one whole Malaysian family, they just come out to help another Malaysian family by helping to prepare food, for those the victims, by helping to do all the packaging, to pack up, the food, the basket, and all that, and also, they're helping, one another to ensure that they are safe, from the floods, that they'll be given help and so on. So I would say that all these have clearly shown that the Malaysian family, the spirit is there, but the Malaysian family spirit in the context of working this together for the benefit of all. For example, like in a disaster, we don't go and discriminate against one another. For example, you have a Chinese family who helps a Malay family, and vice versa. So I think these are the things that we are proud to have, and I hope that it is something that we are able to continue in the years to come.
Okay, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, two major references there, right? For the past couple of years. Anything else on a positive perspective? I'm sure we don't want to wait for Tan Sri, right? For this sort of scale of occurrences, right? Disasters, pandemic. On a positive sense, where do you feel that we are going on the right track?
Well, as I said, I think in terms of showing that we are a caring society, building caring attitudes. I think we have. I'm talking about the people. The people, Malaysians themselves, have set a very fine example of what they mean. You see, I mean, when they talk about, this mutual help, when they talk about, being helpful to one another, being caring to one another. But of course, as I said, arising from all the problems that we have, I think there are very, very important lessons to be learned. For example, the floods. The floods are very important lessons. And these lessons, as I said, I think must be taken very seriously by the government, in terms of improving, the drainage, this system, in terms of building more this infrastructure, to these mitigate floods, using this technology, to minimize the problem and so on. So all these things are meant to be just a lesson of the government. And of course, the people themselves also, I think they must also always learn from the past, in the sense that they must always be in a state of this preparedness, because like in countries like in Taiwan, in Japan, the people are always in a state of this preparedness. Every time, they know that they have to go through the typhoons, the earthquakes, they are prepared. But in Malaysia, as I said, especially in Selangor, I think by and large the people were not fully prepared. So I think it's important that the state of the preparedness must always be there, and I think this is something which the government must really take into account. It must train the people to make sure that they are trained how to survive in the event of just a disaster.
Yeah. Great point there, Tan Sri.
Yeah.
As we wrap up January, moving into February, of course, we've got the Lunar Chinese Year coming up, right? Let's talk a bit about that in your perspective of how, as a country, multicultural, multi-religion, and so on, the celebration practices, as well as, of course, with the Federal Territory Day as well that's coming up.
Yeah, exactly.
How can we relate that better towards, what we want to aspire to be here?
Well, I think one of the greatness of our country is the fact, and this is a remark even made by the foreign visitors to our country. And they say that, this is really is a fantastic place, For example, when they come, a time when we are celebrating this Hari Raya, they will be able to see, I mean, those were the years when we don't have the COVID, the open houses and so on, and then you have the Chinese New Year, which is coming, I think on February the 1st, they see the open houses, and then, for example, these are Deepavali, the Indians, and so many others, even the Ibans, over, in Sarawak, the Kadazan Dusun in Sabah, they have their own, these festivals and so on. This is really, as I said, it's just a fantastic place. That means multicultural diversities are being celebrated, you see. So, but of course, I think in view of the COVID-19, this pandemic, for the past 2 years, the thing is we have to comply with the SOPs. So I think for the coming Chinese New Year, as I said, although they are allowed to travel, they have removed the interstate travel, these restrictions that people can travel to visit, from one place to another. But as I said, they have to be very mindful of these SOPs.
Correct.
And on the whole, I would say, although there has been opening up, but it will be also what I regard as going to be quite a quiet Chinese New Year, because it will not, the celebration will not as great as it had used to be, all these years, because we still have to contend with this Omicron, and we cannot afford to throw caution to the wind. We have to always be very mindful. And as I said, if you ask me what are my best wishes for the Chinese this New Year, as we are going to wrap up this talk show, I'd like to really wish, I think every Malaysian, not only the Chinese, but I would like to wish every Malaysian. I think what I think is very important is they must stay safe. They must stay safe. they must make sure that in this, whatever they do, their health must not be just in jeopardy. And let's celebrate this coming Chinese New Year in a way that will allow us to live and celebrate another day. This is what I've got to say, bearing in mind, the safety and health, of everybody. Because to me, nothing is more important than the safety and health of every individual.
Well said.
And I think we must keep safe. We must ensure our safety.
That's right. And thank you so much, Tan Sri. For being with us. Good health to you as well. Stay safe.
Thank you, Trax, for giving me the opportunity.
You're welcome.
To share my thoughts.
Yes, as always. Pleasure talking to you.
Have a great day, Kong Yu.
You too, Tan Sri. Take care. Bye. My guest via the phone lines, Tan Sri Leelam Thye, social activist as well as, of course, champion for the Alliance for Safe Community, a member of the National Unity Advisory Panel, as well, right here on Face to Face, talking about celebrating Keluarga Malaysia. Yeah, wrapping up the segment. Of course, we're not quite done for the entire show yet. I'll be back after the noon news updates with more happening away right here on Trax Momentum. I'll be with you till 2 p.m. Stay tuned. Good morning.
That's all the time we have for today's Face to Face. We'll be back next week with your host speaking to the panelists discussing interesting topics. Join us next week, Face to Face, exclusively on TRAXXfm.